Selectmen's meeting, if you are ready, please. Welcome, and this is the Town of Dayton regular Selectmen's, Board of Selectmen's regular meeting, Wednesday, February 26, 2025, at 6 o'clock p.m. This is an in-person and via Zoom at Old Town Hall, 1111 Somerset Ave, Dayton, Mass. This meeting is being recorded. The listing of matters are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. We're going to have a call to order, Pledge of Allegiance, and just a moment of silence. So after we do the Pledge of Allegiance, can you just stay standing? We lost our resident this week that we want to give him a moment of silence, please. So can I please have a call to order?
Nicole Mello, present.
Mark Pacheco, present.
And Peter Karen, present. Now, can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We lost a resident this week. His name is David Banks, and we'd just like to pay tribute to him by giving him about 15 seconds of moment of silence, please. Thank you. We're going to get right into it. The first things up tonight are scheduled appointments. We have somebody here from the Housing Authority. Yeah, come on up, please.
Awesome.
Hi, how are you? Please come up to the podium. We're going to grill you. I just spoke with you earlier. These are the other two members of the Board of Selectmen that were not here, so I know what you want, or we know what you want. But you want to be on the Board of Housing.
Right.
Any particular reason why you want to do it?
Well, my friend Ed only asked
Yes.
if I would be interested in that. I
Okay.
do go there every Thursday and meet with some of the people, and
Great.
I'd just like to help.
Okay, cool. And how long you've been in Dayton?
Oh, about 20 years, almost 20
Awesome.
years.
Thank you. Do you have any questions, Mark?
Is there 1 year left on the term, or is there 4 years left?
4 years left right
4
now.
years left, okay.
That was Adele,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Nicole, do you have any
No,
questions?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Is there a recommendation on the floor, please? This is nobody.
No,
How do you say your first name? I'm sorry.
Andre,
Andre. I make a motion to recommend Andre Maynard to the Dayton Housing Authority Board of Commissioners.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Very much.
That
thank
wasn't
you.
so bad, was it?
Thank you. No, I don't think so.
Thank you.
This again is a review, discuss, and act. This is a recommendation to appoint Barbara Catavia to the 250th Anniversary Committee. Pat, are you doing this?
Oh, I thought you were, but I can.
Oh, I can. That's okay. It's Barbara. You come on up, please. I know you were at the last meeting, but oh, not this meeting.
Yep.
The 250th Anniversary meeting.
Right.
How'd it go?
Good.
Yeah.
Good,
Why do you
very
want to do
good.
that?
Pardon?
Why do you want to be on the committee?
Because I was in the 200th
Oh,
parade.
cool. Were you really?
Yeah, I was, yeah. I actually got a big trophy.
Nice. As long as you don't say I was on the 100th committee, I think we'll
No,
be
I
all right.
had to watch it. Yeah, I know. Years go by fast.
It's a fun committee to be on. They've made a lot of headway, and obviously there's a lot going on that's coming up in the future, so they're going to really need your assistance.
There's a lot to it.
Yes.
They're doing a fantastic job
They
over
do.
there. They
Thank
really
you.
are. And it's fun.
I
It
think
is.
they're going into the fundraising stage,
I am.
so you'll...
About time, huh?
Yeah. Okay. Is there a motion on the floor, please?
I'd like to make a motion to recommend Barbara Catavia to the 250th Anniversary Committee.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Congratulations, Barbara.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. The next item is a recommendation to appoint somebody onto the cable committee, but that's going to be tabled, so we need a motion on the
to
floor.
table that.
I think there's no motion
Motion
required.
to table? No? Okay.
I think so. No motion.
Weston and Sampson. Hi. Come on up. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing excellent, thank you.
My name's Dries Schwartz. I'm with Weston and Sampson. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. So Nancy had invited me here. She wanted me to provide a little update on some of the work we've been doing to help the town comply with their MS4 permit. And I don't know how much discussion you guys have had on the MS4 permit in the past, so you have good background knowledge. Is that okay? Thank you. I was just going to give a little kind of quick little background for anybody that might not be familiar with the permit. But so this is a permit that regulates the town's stormwater discharges to waters of the United States. This permit's been around for a really long time now. It was first issued back in 2003. And with each reissuance of this permit, obviously, the requirements have become more extensive and stringent and more costly to kind of comply with. So right now we're in the midst of the 2016 permit, which became effective in 2018. There are always 5-year permit cycles. This permit is technically an expired permit right now, but it's administratively continued until EPA releases a new permit. So we're currently in permit year 7, which ends on June 30th, 2025, coming up. And by design, a lot of the requirements that were built into this permit actually extend beyond the 5-year period, because it does sometimes take a while for a new permit to be issued. And so there's a lot of built-in other requirements at this point. Some go out 10, 20 years at this point. As far as the regulated area of the permit, I just wanted to kind of show, I don't know if you can see that map there with the outline of Dayton, but it kind of shows the urbanized area. So not all of Dayton's stormwater infrastructure is regulated under this permit. It's just within that shaded area, which is based on census data. So, the 2010 census, we have the 2020 census, so that area could be modified or expanded based on that 2020 data. So just wanted to kind of point that out too. And in terms of discharges, it's all about discharges that are going to reach a water of the U.S. because it's all about water quality. So if you have a discharge that might, infiltrate before it would reach a water of the U.S., then it technically wouldn't be covered under this permit. So those are different things that we kind of look at in terms of compliance. In terms of Dayton's MS4 system, so one thing that we've kind of been working on and were hired to do was to kind of facilitate helping with mapping of the town's drainage system. So that's a requirement of the permit to get it into, GIS, so you have an electronic map of your drainage system. Because right now you've really been working off of kind of some hand sketches, and so we've been trying to kind of piece some of that together. And the first piece of that is really the outfall mapping. But just to kind of give you a picture, so with the year 6 annual report, you guys had reported that you had 933 catch basins within the regulated area. And we've been out doing some field work. So we've been mapping outfalls, basically, those discharge points where you may reach a water of the U.S. So to date, we've mapped 79 outfalls at this point. We're also doing some dry weather screening as part of that effort, which I'll talk about. There is still some, obviously, additional mapping required. Really mapping the outfalls is just kind of the first step as part of this effort. And the focus, again, has been on that urbanized area, which is regulated under the permit. There are basically 6 minimum control measures under the permit. So these are kind of the main elements of the permit. And the belief is that if certain best management practices are implemented under each of these control measures, it's going to ultimately improve receiving water quality. So the items that I have kind of underlined here, illicit discharge detection and elimination, and construction and post-construction runoff control, are some of the areas that we're kind of really focusing on as part of our current agreement with the town. One of the other things outside those 6 minimum control measures when it comes to compliance is also thinking about impaired waters. So the state maintains a list, it's called the 303D list of integrated waters, basically receiving waters that aren't meeting water quality standards and are impaired for certain designated uses. And so there are more prescriptive requirements under the permit in terms of trying to restore those designated uses for those particular receiving waters. So here I'm just mentioning that there's actually a pathogen TMDL that impacts for the Taunton River watershed that would impact some of the areas within, or some of the receiving waters within Dayton. And then there's other water bodies that don't have what's called the total maximum daily load. So a TMDL is basically like a study, a model that was done to try to look at how we can, bring that receiving water back to meeting water quality standards by reducing the amount of pollutants of a certain type of pollutant that may be reaching that receiving water. And so there are certain water bodies in Dayton that are on this list as well that don't currently have a TMDL that the state has yet issued. And again, there's more extensive requirements related to compliance under the permit. So maybe, additional public education requirements with respect to discharges that ultimately go to the Taunton River, which has an impairment for nitrogen. There's a nitrogen source identification report that needs to be completed, kind of looking at sources of nitrogen in the watershed and how those can, whether it's source control through public education or, actual implementation of structural control measures for treatment. So our current project that we're working on, which was funded through ARPA, kind of three different components to this project. So there's an MS4 implementation plan. So basically what we're doing is we're going back and looking through the permit and identifying all of the requirements in the permit that are applicable to Dayton, and then evaluating what is the status of all of those requirements? Have they been met? What still needs to be met? The permit in a lot of ways is very prescriptive. So there's certain things that needed to be completed in certain years of the permit. And again, like I mentioned, because this permit is costly to comply with, there's definitely many communities out there that aren't fully in compliance and are still trying to kind of catch up. So this is kind of creates like a blueprint for the town to look at, well, what are the requirements? What have we met? What are we still working on? What's a feasible timeline when we can meet certain requirements? And what is the cost going to be to the town? Are there certain things that the town can easily take the lead on? Is there certain things where you need more outside consulting support or an outside contractor to provide assistance? And so really trying to develop that kind of game plan kind of going forward. The other piece is looking at, and I should say that the two other pieces of this, the stormwater regulations and the dry weather outfall screening and mapping, are based on things that we know are on EPA's radar. They're reaching out to certain communities and saying, oh, you don't have that done yet, and that's on their radar, and we want to make sure that, we're prioritizing those things. So one is with the regulations, looking at your current regulations and making sure they meet the requirements of the 2016 permit with respect to construction and post-construction stormwater management. So that's one thing we're also working on. And then we were talking before a little bit about the outfall mapping and the dry weather screening. So again, we've mapped about 79 outfalls to date. We're doing this during a dry weather period. We're trying to identify any non-stormwater discharges that are getting into your drainage system. So, during dry weather, you wouldn't expect there to be a discharge at the outfall unless, of course, maybe groundwater intrusion is coming into those pipelines. Otherwise, it could be an illicit discharge of some type of, source getting in, which is kind of what we're testing for. And so far, after screening about 79 outfalls, we've only identified 3 outfalls that actually had dry weather flow, which is great. We've tested those and didn't see any evidence of an illicit discharge, so any evidence of a non-stormwater discharge getting into the system, which is great, because if we find something, then we need to, there's more ongoing investigative work that needs to get done and be prioritized as part of that. So as far as kind of next steps, there's still some outfall mapping to kind of fully complete outfall mapping within the urbanized area that needs to be completed. And we're trying to, again, do that at the same time as a dry weather period so we can meet the dry weather screening requirements of the permit. Essentially the end product would be, which won't be done under this current contract, unfortunately, but we would map the entire drainage system within that urbanized area, which is the requirement of the permit. So mapping all of your catch basins, drain manholes, your pipelines, any stormwater treatment structures, getting those all mapped and into GIS is the ultimate goal under this permit of what's required. So, and then look at the contributing drainage area for each outfall and prioritize catchments for further investigation. So that's kind of, again, a synopsis of the current work. The next slide kind of shows just some priority items. At this point, we haven't finished the implementation plan, but based on the work that we've done to date, we kind of evaluated and identified what we feel like, funding permitting, what we encourage the town to prioritize as next steps under permit year 8, which starts on July 1st. And I know Nancy and I had kind of talked about this, and I think she had provided you with just some background information on, some of the items. And some of these were items, again, that were required to be completed in earlier years of the permit. So we're just working to help the town kind of get caught up and stuff as part of that effort. So, but we can certainly further prioritize these items based on any, funding that the town has available and stuff, and make some recommendations. And then the next item is just kind of looking out. A lot of the items under the current permit need to be completed by year 10, and so we're just thinking, well, what's it going to take for the town to get to the finish line by year 10 in terms of some of the, more extensive field work that needs to be done, some of the additional, there's wet weather outfall sampling, some in-system catchment investigations where we're trying to isolate any flow, and it goes more quickly if there's not a lot of flow during dry weather, which so far signs are good. Yes.
When you say dry weather, when do you have a specific time, or are you just judging by?
Yeah, so we like to do it, generally, during the summer months or spring. We did some of this work already, last fall and stuff. Right. So just trying to identify a dry period where it hasn't rained in like 24 hours or so, or 48 hours.
I didn't know how far.
Yeah, the longer we can get, obviously, the better, because less, but we do get concerned about, doing work in the spring sometimes, especially if groundwater is high.
Wet, right?
Yeah, because you're more apt to see groundwater intrusion into the pipes. And then even now with like the snow melt and stuff, obviously we wouldn't want to go out there and be capturing snow melt and stuff. So, So this just kind of gives you a snapshot of some of the other things as we're projecting out to years 9 and 10 of the permit of other priority items. And again, as we dig into the implementation plan more and finalize that, we'll have a better sense of kind of next steps. So the other item I just wanted to mention tonight is we were talking about this permit being expired and administratively continued. So there actually is a new draft permit that came out in the fall, the 2024 MS4 permit, which is currently out for public comment. The public comment period was just extended. It's going now till May 21st. But it's just an opportunity for the town to comment on the draft permit, items that may be concerning. It's in terms of, the cost to comply or and so we've been working with communities also to kind of develop a comment letter if that's something that, the town would be interested in doing, submitting a formal comment letter to EPA. I just outlined some of the kind of the requirements. One of them is like a catch basin upgrade and replacement program. Catch basins maybe that don't have the required sump depth or are in disrepair, wanting to get a full inventory of the condition of those catch basins, and then there's a requirement to replace so many within a certain time period. So just thinking about things that could be very costly for the town to implement. So that's kind of just another thing to think about.
When would we repair those? Only when there's road construction, or?
Well, they're saying,
The ones that need to be repaired,
right.
and
So
that's become the priority.
right. So if you already have some condition assessment information based on your catch basin cleaning operations,
Right.
you might know that certain need to be replaced. As part of one of the requirements of the permit is developing a catch basin cleaning optimization plan, and you're trying to figure out how quickly your catch basin sumps are filling up, and so you're taking certain measurements to calculate that information. So you might, through that information, have identified that, oh wow, a lot of your catch basins don't have that 4-foot
Right.
sump, which aids with water quality. So those might be placed on a list for replacement.
Okay.
But, yeah.
And how far is the opera funds going to pay for this?
So the ARPA funds that you currently have designated for this current contract really just cover the implementation plan, the regulatory review, and all the dry weather screening, outfall, and mapping. So, again, these are draft permit requirements, so
Yep.
who knows when they would actually be implemented into a final permit and require compliance. I guess the focus really now is on the 2016 permit and anything outstanding and making sure,
Okay.
the town is working to kind of catch up on items the town is behind on. But it's definitely a costly initiative, and there's not a lot of funding available to assist communities. I know other communities have used the ARPA funding. I have some clients that have taken out used an SRF loan through the Clean Water State Revolving Fund to support some of these costs, but there aren't a lot of,
Right.
I shouldn't say, there's a lot of active stormwater coalitions, and there are resources and templates that are provided that can obviously streamline efforts.
So the state has these mandates,
Right,
but
I know.
they don't have the funds behind them.
Exactly, yeah, yep, unfortunately. So I know that's been said many times, unfunded mandate on this end, so, unfortunately.
Okay. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, any questions are welcome. I think I just have maybe one more slide.
Yes.
So just talking about kind of next steps again. So again, just that reminder that if the town wishes to comment on the permit, and comments can be that, wow, this is a really costly measure and it's, burdensome to the town, certain requirements, or the time frame to implement that requirement is too accelerated. It's not something the town thinks they can feasibly meet. But those comment letters are due on May 21st. We're working on finalizing our report for the dry weather outfall screening and mapping effort. Working on finalizing the implementation plan, which I said will definitely provide more guidance and insight on how to kind of move forward and prioritize requirements that the town might need to catch up on. And then finish our regulatory review, work with the town to try to make updates to the regulations as needed to meet those requirements. And then we've got, again, permit year 7 is coming to an end on June 30th. And so 90 days after the permit year ends, the town is required to submit an annual report to EPA. It's a template report that EPA provides, and a different one each year that's reflective of what was supposed to be completed during that permit year. And that's required to be submitted by September 28th.
Okay.
So, and I know Nancy has been
Right.
taking the lead on those in the
She's,
annual
she's
reports.
great at it.
Yeah, nope, it's great. So, and this year we'll help her with feeding her with information based on, the work that we've done that the town can take credit for.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's kind of.
That's it in a
this-
nutshell.
Yeah, I know.
A large
It's a lot-
nutshell.
Yeah, I know, and there's a lot more to it, but I didn't
Right.
want to get too much into the weeds.
Sure. Okay.
Is there any questions I can answer?
Nicole, you answered a couple of questions that I had.
No, I don't
Nicole,
have
do
any
you anything?
questions.
Mark, do you have anything you want to add?
The GIS mapping of the catch basins, does that have to be done by year 10?
So by year 10, the town is supposed to have their entire drainage system within that urbanized area that we showed mapped. So I think it's like maybe a third of the town or so, all of the drainage infrastructure mapped. Yeah, technically that should be completed by year 10. So like I said, we're kind of getting started with the outfall mapping, but still a good amount of mapping that needs to be done and stuff as well.
Okay. And the regulated area was based on the 2000 and 2010 census, and that's because it's a 2016 permit? Because you must have the 2020
Right, so it was based
data.
on what was available at that point. So the 2020 data is available now. I did take a quick peek at it. It looked like the urbanized area had pretty much stayed the same, but I have to take kind of a closer look just to confirm. But it didn't, I wouldn't say it expanded by any, large measure. It looked to pretty much follow up the existing footprint. One thing that's interesting is we've had some communities where in 2000, something might have been urbanized in 2000 and it's not in 2010, which is always interesting to me because I feel like everything's just getting more developed. But in that case, you're still kind of grandfathered in and you still have to comply with the 2000 footprint and, even if areas fell off the map in 2010, so,
Okay.
but.
For, like you mentioned, unfunded mandate, do you know, is this the feds that mandate this, or is it the state that
So it is a federal permit.
It's federal,
Yeah.
federal,
So it's a
okay.
federal permit through the NIPDES program, which is the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System program, which basically regulates all point source discharges to the waters of the U.S., whether that be, combined sewer overflows or an industrial discharge or anything.
Sorry about that, folks. We're getting into the porn business now.
All right.
Thanks, Mark.
Did we lose our Johnson now?
I apologize, that's terrible.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, it's okay. So, so just saying, so part of that NIPDES program, so it is a federal permit, but in some cases that authority's been delegated to the states. So like in certain states, like, if it was Massachusetts and it was a delegated state, the Department of Environmental Protection would take the lead with implementation of the permit. We are one of the few states where EPA still retains primacy. So EPA is the lead on this permit.
My last question is, does Weston and Sampson, can they work with the towns to identify funding sources? I know you knew some and it was few and far between, but do you guys share that?
Well, what's funny you say that because previously we had worked with the town probably 2 or 3 years ago now. There's an MS4 grant that comes out. And so, it's a very limited amount of funding. It might be like $250,000. So it's very competitive. And they like to give the funding to different like watershed associations or different community groups or different municipalities that kind of band together to get funding because they want to make sure the money is going to, support more than just maybe one community. So we did submit an application. You guys had teamed with Berkeley at that time, and we were looking to do outfall mapping and stuff and trying to get that covered. But I think just because it wasn't benefiting, enough communities, we did not get the funding when we worked with the town to apply for that. So I do feel like I tend to discourage communities from applying unless we have a really good consortium of communities and
Right.
and it could be something that's transferable to a lot of communities afterward.
Okay,
So-
very good, thank you.
But yeah, we're always happy to try to work with the town and of course identify, funding sources. I mean, with the Clean Water Program, it is, it is a loan, a low interest loan that needs to be paid back. So it's not,
Right.
unfortunately not like a grant that you guys
Sure.
wouldn't have to pay back.
Okay. Folks, is there any questions while she's here? Ralph, you have anything you want to add?
No, sir, no.
Nancy, anything you want to add?
Just to address some of the cost issues, Tom Ferry and I met with Serena and Town Administrator yesterday and looked at stormwater budget for FY '26. We got a couple of items we're looking at from the list that Sharice had sent to us. The rest of it is pretty much, we're gonna play it by ear as far as what projects come next. We're trying to be very conservative. We're really focused on the IDE plan and the management plan, which I have with me tonight. to bring those up to speed, and those are part of the list that was mentioned. So we'll just move ahead and do what we can under the grant as far as getting the whole intent of the grant when I talked to Mike was we need help getting up to speed. And because even though we've had it since 2007, I haven't worked on it continuously. And when I was not on the Board of Selectmen, we didn't have a stormwater committee. So we've done more since 2018 when the committee got appointed. There were those who thought in the past we should just sit back and coast. And I want to thank the boards of selectmen and the town administrators who said, no, we're not going to coast, because if you coast, you're going to end up behind. And we didn't want to cause problems with the relationship we have with the EPA, which is very good. So I think that's why we have not been singled out for non-compliance. They've worked with us, and we've explained to them where we are with this whole thing. And I did let the senior permit writer know that we had this grant and that this work would be done by Weston and Sampson. So they're also aware of what we're doing along those lines. So I think that's a plus too.
Sure.
And I know there are at least 4 members of the Stormwater Committee here tonight, so thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess we're all set.
Thank
Well,
you very
for
much
your
for having me.
presentation, we appreciate it. This is, Shara, you're up next. This is a review, discuss, and act for the mail-in ballots.
Thanks for having me here tonight. I'm here before you regarding opting out of vote by mail for the Saturday, April 12th annual town election. I am asking you to opt out of vote by mail strictly due to the cost. As you know, I came before you last year with the opposite request. With the vote by mail being mandatory for the state and federal elections, and with the postcards that were sent by the state and paid for by the state, we were able to piggyback off of them and send ballots to everyone requesting all elections on the postcard. We did this so as to be less confusing to the voter. Last year, we had 769 vote by mail that were requested, paid for from the state, with 335 ballots returned, only giving us a 44% return rate. So it would cost us to do vote by mail $4,370.46 to send a vote by mail application to 6,334 registered voters, not covered by the state. So that would be out of our budget. We would also need to hire a couple of election workers to help send ballots and help with post-tabulation of these ballots. And I know that, especially with the elderly and disabled, I understand the idea of vote by mail. I really do. And because of this, we will have options for absentee. We currently send them to every new registered voter, absentee applications. We have the applications on our site on the town clerk's page in 2 different places. We can also add to the Facebook page with the application, and I already talked to Council on Aging, and they're willing to put it on their Facebook page as well. We can have it added to the Strawberry Vine for April. It'll give us about a week to anybody that wants to do applications. They can come in and come to the office, fill something out, email it, call me, you know what I mean, anything like that. We're definitely willing to work with anyone. We can print the absentee applications and leave it at the Council on Aging at Lincoln Village. We can even leave applications in the library. Post office, I'm willing to put absentee applications so that way we have options. I can even try and work with the Lions and have some printed, maybe bring them to the food pantry or any other events. I'm willing to take any kind of, anything that anybody has that, say, hey, maybe if you try this. By us coming up with some other options to get the applications out, we would be able to save a lot of money. And right now, it truly is not in my budget to spend all this money for vote by mail with having so little return. So honestly, it would technically put me in the red. So this is why I'm definitely asking to opt out this time. Granted, I might ask you another time to opt in because, you know, if the postcards are sent out by the state, we would piggyback off of it. We wouldn't be spending that kind of money. And so that's what I'm asking.
This is just the opposite of last year's argument.
Yes, yes. Exactly the opposite.
Which is troublesome. Is it strictly funding that is
It's
holding
strictly
us back?
funding,
Holding you
so,
back?
yeah, so the reason why I opted in last year was because the vote by mail, the postcards went out, and it said all elections.
Right.
So what we did was we took that, it was paid for by the state, we took that and we sent out the ballots to everyone that requested a, all elections.
Right.
And that's why, and it was paid for by the state. It didn't come out of my budget. The only thing that obviously comes out is when we, send out the ballots, but anybody that wants absentee, of course, we definitely wanna help
Right, you
them
would
out.
still apply, send them forward.
Correct.
But inclement weather was last year. The disabled, those hold true today.
Of course.
And I don't wanna spend $4,000, but I don't wanna insult anybody as well this year just because, just a second, John. Just because we've decided that $4,000 is too much. Obviously, you have alternatives, which still works today. But I'm curious to see what everybody else
I
has
mean,
to say.
they can do, so my understanding, you're saying if they do an absentee ballot, they can send that paperwork to you, like.
Absolutely.
For anyone that's like a shut-in that's not able to
Correct.
get, so, okay.
And and honestly, that's why I'm saying, like, I wanna give as much options as how to get those absentee, applications out there. So, you know, anybody is able to have them. So I did talk to Council on Aging and talk to them about the Strawberry Vine. I talked about, you know, getting it on their Facebook page as well as obviously our town one. So I'm trying to come up with as many options.
Sure.
To save that money.
Okay, just a second, Mark, okay? Out of the $769, you got 34% back. How much of that 34% back was just done out of convenience?
That's exactly. You know what I mean? We don't know. It's we sent it to everybody that requested all elections, and what we got back, we don't know if it was just because they didn't want to make it out that day, or if they really had a disability or anything like that.
Okay.
We don't know that.
Mark, do you have any concerns?
You mentioned you send every new registered voter an absentee ballot application. Do you also send them a vote by mail application?
Just the absentee.
Okay, so the Votes Act requires the local election official, you have to send every new registered voter a vote by mail application. It's required in the Votes Act. Section 25B of the Votes Act says that the Board of Selectmen may opt out of vote by mail no fewer than 45 days after a public hearing is held. So the election's exactly 45 days from today. We'd have to vote on it today. It's not posted as a public hearing. We would have needed to have posted this as one. In the past, the Board of Selectmen has received a request from the local election official to opt out of vote by mail. They voted to have a public hearing. It was on the next agenda. But it would have to be advertised as a public hearing per the Votes Act. In 2022, when the Votes Act was signed into law, the two towns went to the state auditor, the town of Plymouth and the town of Hardwick, and they both challenged the state that it was an unfunded mandate. Auditor DeZoglio did rule on both towns that vote by mail is an unfunded mandate for local elections as well. They did rule, to your point, that towns don't have to send vote by mail ballot applications to every voter. So for consistency, that's too bad, because I wish we could get reimbursed for that. However, Everything else is reimbursable. Paper, glue sticks, your labor for election workers, the labor for post and pre-election tabulations, any extra costs to the town would be 100% reimbursed by the state auditor. So the only cost that could possibly be incurred for vote by mail would be sending out applications,
Which is that 4,000?
if it was not in the budget, I'd support that, but there's no legal way for us to opt out of vote by mail for this election.
Okay. So then if it's 45 days, so after this, so by not voting today, that's why, if you were to vote today, you can't do that.
If it was posted as a public hearing, because, like I said, 25B says it would be a vote of the Board of Selectmen not less than 45 days prior to the date of the election, and it would have to be, you need a public hearing as well.
A separate public hearing?
Yeah, see,
Yes,
I read it.
you need a
Okay.
public hearing. I'll find the exact wording for it.
While he's doing that, I know, John, you have, you want to address everybody? No, you can do it from
He
there.
has to come to the podium for cable.
Oh, Cable, I'm sorry, John. Cable needs to be able to hear you. Can you come up?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think I know where I'm going. I don't
Okay.
know. It's good
No,
enough?
you're about to get selectmen. Here you go.
Well, I've been up there before.
It is
Okay.
extra seats.
So, as first of all, as far as what you're referring to for the public hearing and notification, I'm going to give this to Shara and ask her to pass this out to each of you, herself, and to the TA. This is the regulation that Mark is referring to, I believe, right now, that Selectman Pacheco is referring to. There's
Okay.
5 copies here, and it does talk about requiring a 48-hour notice for the public hearing, and you haven't done that, so you haven't met that part of the
Okay.
burden. If you would take this and
Thank you.
pass it on, I'd appreciate it. With regard to the vote by mail in general, I'm speaking both as the ADA coordinator for town and as a resident. And I think as far as the ADA component goes, yes, there are many residents who would need to vote by mail simply if not for their disability. As a result of that, a lot of those residents also are not able to use or read the Strawberry Vine. They're not able to use the internet. Many of them don't know how to use the FB page. They don't know how to use the town website. So you're singling out a lot of residents by not allowing it, simply by making the decision not to do it. You're also singling out families who have young children, potentially. If a family member, if there's a single family member, there's not 2 persons in the family, it may be difficult for that person to get down and vote if they have young children, or even older children, and they're committed to other activities, or work, for example. You're not allowing those people to participate. There are absentee issues as well. I think there are a lot of residents in town who may be absent, and if you change this now, they may not be aware of the changes, and they may not be able to make any decisions at this point. They're not gonna be able to come back to town necessarily. They may not even get the information at this point in time. So if you put those reasons together, let alone the fact that all of the cost is covered, if the town clerk needs to hire people on a pro tem basis, and she needs to pay stipends to people, that's covered as well. The reimbursement takes time, the reimbursement is sent to the state auditor, the state auditor reviews it for approval, the state auditor sends it to the Secretary of State's office. The Secretary of State's office does have the funding available for reimbursement, so it's not a question of whether the funds will be there or not. If you put all of that together, it makes sense to me to continue to opt in as opposed to opting out. I can't find any rational reason why the town would want to do that. It doesn't make sense to the vast majority of residents. You know, she mentioned 300 and some odd ballots came back and 700 and some odd went out. That's still 300 and some odd voters you're not giving an opportunity potentially to vote. And I think that's part of what you have to consider. What's the cost of a vote? If the cost of the vote is 0 because you're going to be reimbursed, then why should you disenfranchise over 300 of our town's residents or potentially 700 of our town's residents to vote? And I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks.
Mark, did you find what you were looking for?
Yes, it basically says
What you just said? Okay.
So the only thing that would not be covered, obviously, is sending out the vote by mail.
wanna
So
clarify
that is,
that,
I'm
that
gonna
it's not
clarify
free.
that it's gonna cost $4,370.46. which I will have to go in front of the board and get money.
Okay. This is a review, discuss, and act. We're at the discuss portion of that. Does anybody else have something they want to say? Okay. Is there a motion on the floor then? Okay, hearing no motion, it doesn't pass.
Okay,
Thank you.
I will send them out. Thank you. No, it's fine.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Chief? How are you?
Good, how are you?
Hello?
Doing excellent, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. How are you? Tonight,
Firing range is first.
what do you want to start on that?
We tabled it the last meeting.
Yep.
We wanted some input from you and some more information. At the time, you
Yep.
wanted Somerset to join.
Yeah, and I tabled that.
Yeah.
We're not allowing Somerset to join us
Okay.
on the range.
So that issue is dead.
It is dead.
One of the things, we get a few complaints a year when a town is, and there's only two towns, or one town, one city, of what is happening. Is there a schedule that you can post?
So, I was speaking to a gentleman today. I was actually speaking to Woody earlier today about, we have a new platform coming out, new website with all new questions that explain all the drop downs. It's under resources tab. So when you go to resources, they go to firing range. There's several different questions on there that we got from different websites from other towns, popular questions.
Sure.
And there's all the drop downs. And we're gonna put out on our Facebook and the days we're training out there.
Okay,
It's been asked about releasing schedules, but that's not safe to release schedules ahead of time.
okay,
But we will be transparent can be.
sure. How often does Taunton use it?
Same as us. So
Yeah.
we have to, it's mandated by the state under post that we have to
Right.
shoot twice a year. So we shoot in
Okay.
the spring and we shoot in the fall.
Okay.
So,
Nicole, do you have any concerns about this aspect of the?
No, the chief did put something out on Facebook today
Yeah.
that was very thorough. I think it answers a lot of those questions for residents,
Great.
and it was very
Okay,
helpful.
just not everybody's on Facebook, so that's why I ask. Mark, do you have anything?
No, I didn't
Just
know
this,
the
section.
Somerset issue was tabled. I wasn't
Okay.
aware of that.
yeah, I thought about it and getting a lot of negative feedbacks from it, so I thought it'd be the best.
Okay, great,
Keep it
thank
that
you.
way. Yeah.
Now we move on to the appointment.
Yes, Tyler Lopes? It's my recommendation that the board appoint Tyler Lopes to a full-time patrolman position. Tyler is an alumni graduate of Curry College. He's a Bridge Academy certified, post-certified police officer. He started his career off with the Acushnet Police Department as a reserve officer. He's currently now working full-time with UMass Dartmouth. He brings to the table as he's a certified handgun and rifle instructor, and he'd be a great fit for the Dayton Police
Great.
Department.
What do you do at UMass Dartmouth?
I'm a police officer there.
Police officer there? Oh, great. Nicole, do you have any questions?
No, you sound like a great addition.
Absolutely. Mark?
I echo your comments.
So he just called me ma'am, so now I.
Yeah.
I feel
Now you're in
old.
trouble.
Yeah.
I don't have any questions. I think it's great that you want to do it. Dayton's a great community. It's small, probably equal in numbers-wise to UMass Dartmouth. They have several students and,
a little bit bigger, but.
yes. Well, land-wise we are, but, well, I think you're going to be a great addition if the chief recommends you. And judging by the people who came here to support you this evening, I think it's a great move. I appreciate that. Okay, this is a review, discuss, and act, so we need a motion on the floor.
I'll make a motion to appoint Tyler Lopes for the position of patrolman for the Dayton Police Department.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
That's exciting. Another police officer.
Yes.
Okay, this is a recommendation for an appointment as a dispatcher.
It is my recommendation that the town appoints Angelina, how do I pronounce your last name? Echeverria.
I was gonna butcher it.
I was gonna butcher that one. Angelina is a resident of town. She formerly resided in Fall River. She did apply to us for a part-time dispatch position and communications, and she'd be an outstanding fit to add to our part-time workforce.
Great. Where do you live now?
I currently live in Dayton.
Yeah, whereabouts?
They're around on Williams Street.
Sure, great. And where did you live in Fall River?
I live near Platt Street, so around
okay.
like that near the Fall River Police
Yep.
Department.
So why'd you want to move to Dayton?
I actually moved in with my aunt.
Oh, cool. Excellent.
It was a better opportunity for me, environment-wise and
Sure.
personal reasons. So
Nice. Dayton's a great community. I think you'll like it here.
I do like it so far.
Okay.
So.
This is a review, discuss, and act. We're at the discussion stage. Anybody have anything they want to add? Then it's a recommendation on the floor.
I make a motion to appoint Angelina Echevarria as a part-time dispatcher.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. You're all set. Good luck. So you have some police time donations, police sick time. Were you aware that was on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
So it came to my attention that the police union wanted to donate sick time to Patrolman Bennett for being out, and I was for that. The police union was in contact with Serena, and has been in contact through email about what they're going to donate for sick time.
Okay, this is great. What is the status?
As far as I guess
email.
they agreed to 6 Sergeant Barrows, 6 people donating time to start off.
The whole
Patrolman.
union body is donating, just some more senior members are donating more time than the
That's awesome. Great, thank you for doing that. We appreciate it.
Thank you for considering.
Well, you're welcome. Okay, this is a,
Through the chair, just for clarification, for the town accountant, can you vote, if it's vote to accept this vote as written, as presented by the union, Serena just needs some, she's going to take it out as blocks of time,
Okay.
as needed by Officer Bennett.
Yeah.
Because the up to it's just going to be problematic. So if you vote it this way, then every time she needs another block of time, she has the authority. You've
Okay.
given her the authority to do
Sure.
that. Thank you.
okay. Then we need a motion on the floor, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the police sick time donations as presented in writing by the union.
And to give the accountants the authority to,
Oh,
that-
whatever Mark says.
no, second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, all set, chief.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone
you.
that came tonight.
Thank you.
Dayton School Committee budget? Is anybody here from the school committee? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. How's it going?
You're back in town there, Bill? You were out of town, right? You're back?
I'm back.
How was your conference?
It was really good.
Is it good?
Thank you, yeah.
Why don't we give it just a second until everybody clears out?
It's a shame. I thought they were here to hear about your budget.
About my what?
I thought they were here to hear about your budget.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that thing out on the voting, we should have notified her earlier. Oh, she should. Yeah, she should have.
I read the law myself.
Did you? Yeah. It's her own fault.
It's very accessible.
Yeah.
There's lots of training on it. So that's sometimes the way you gotta do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate to say it, but it's true.
We favor of that into the town. That's
Would've been in trouble. Yeah. No, I agree with you.
And in all fairness, I reread the law this morning, it's all like I knew about this for weeks. When I went into work this morning, it's the first thing I did, so it's not like I was sitting on it for a long time.
Right. No, I didn't know if you probably knew from a few years ago when you were here.
Right, I was the original one to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sir, whenever you're ready.
Oh, Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us. I'm joined by the chair of the committee, Mr. Andrade, as well as two school committee members, Mrs. Kuchar.
You want to wait? Hey, guys, excuse me. We have to continue with our meeting. See you later, Bob. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. So, again, thank you for having me here tonight. I'm joined by the chair of the school committee, Mr. Andrade, as well as Mr. Jefferson and Mrs. Kuchar. Last night, I made a proposal to the budget subcommittee first, and then to the full school committee for our tentative or preliminary budget for them to consider as our tentative budget. Just a few of the highlights. Very proud of the fact that in the first 2 years that I've been in the district, we've worked towards a very comprehensive strategic plan. That strategic plan is called Driving Toward 2030. And as we put this budget together, I think the three priorities that I have made for myself based on how difficult the first two budget cycles that I've been responsible for have been are as follows. First of all, prioritizing what is best for our kids. Secondly, careers that may be in the balance based on decisions that ultimately land on my desk. And that also includes cutting programs. But also number three, being mindful of the district's relationship with each town. And it is no secret that last year's budget put a significant burden on the town. The assessment increase was 9.47%. For the town of Rehoboth, it was 7.68%. And I know that was difficult for the town. It put stress on the town. It still comes back to issues that are at the state level. And so for the last 2 years, I have proposed 33 staffing cuts, 12.5 cuts in FY24, and a whopping 20.5 cuts last year to go into FY25. So we've proposed not only 33 staffing cuts, but we've also cut some programs. And so it has been gut-wrenching for a lot of our teachers, a lot of our students who are losing their favorite teacher or losing their favorite program. I am happy to say that this year the state gave us more money than what they gave us the year before, because when we went from FY24 to FY25, they actually gave us less money, which, given the astronomical rates of inflation, was just unfathomable to me, but it was what it was. And I do think receiving less money from the previous fiscal year was one of the contributing factors to why the assessment rates were exorbitant. The budget that I proposed to our school committee last night, that they did vote in as the tentative budget, is a district-wide increase of 4.11%. The impact on the town of Dighton is a 4.36% increase. The impact to the town of Rehoboth is a 6.03% increase. Total increase is $2.1 million. Just for a little bit of context, I would like to share that the last two non-COVID budget cycles back in FY19 and FY20, in 2019, the assessment for the district was 7.8%. The town of Dighton was 9.78%. Town of Rehoboth 7.89%. And then the last non-COVID budget was FY20. That was an increase district-wide of 4.61%. Impact to the town of Dighton was 3.9, and impact to the town of Rehoboth was 5.7. What I'll close with before any questions that you have is that the $471,000 increase that we received from the state represents less than 1% of the increase that we are proposing. The regional school districts are taking a hit I'm actually going to attend a meeting next Tuesday. It's a virtual meeting that's sponsored by the Mass Municipal Association. It's also sponsored by the Massachusetts Association of Regional School Committees, about how we can, as regional school districts, how we can try to implore the state to give us more funding. But we have our annual budget hearing will be held on March 25th at our high school. And at that point, anyone from the public would also have the opportunity to weigh in on the budget.
Great, thank you. It's not for us, or myself and the other people to tell you how to cut your budget or not cut your budget. Well, let me back that up. It's not for us to tell you how to cut your budget. But we are, like every year, facing drastic cuts in our own budget and not increasing anyone's. It concerns me that you're coming in with a 4.3 increase at a time when the police and the fire are taking substantial hits. I'm hoping that it's preliminary and it is room for negotiation in that with your own team of school committee members and your administration. You are stuck with obligations like we are. State mandates, carbon copy with the town as a whole. But we have to look at everything together and not just one isolated chunk and say they're exempt from cuts. We have, I understand that you have lost teachers and you have lost favorite programs. I went through high school with similar situations in Swansea where, yeah, a teacher was there one year and gone the next, and you take it personally. I'm concerned that we're not going to be able to absorb a 4%, 4-point-something% increase. I don't, physically, I don't see us being able to do that. I'm hoping that you can go back to your members and say, where can we come up with a little bit more money in cuts so that the town can help function the way it's supposed to function.
What I will say is that, I think the gouging of our staff the last 2 years is something that, not only has an effect on a child who is losing their favorite teacher.
Sure.
But now we're getting to the point where we are stretched almost to the limit of contractual class sizes. And contractual class sizes, to me, in this district, are even far more reasonable than what I would like to have in our elementary schools and in our middle schools to be able to effectively educate the children that are in this town. Again, I certainly understand where you're coming from. We started at level services at 7.92%, so we've cut 3.8% off of level services thus far. I don't know if there's a target you have in mind, but...
No specific target. I mean, your team has done an outstanding job. I've watched them, and it's amazing how hard they work. And I don't want to take anything away from anyone. Is there a number that, to say, come in at 3% or 2%? Not yet. We would like you to do the best you can and come back with, absolutely, this is what we need. Maybe you've done that. I don't know for sure. I just want you to be aware of the situation the town is in. You're one part of a much larger budget, but you are the main chunk of that budget. So you have the greatest impact on whether it be a cut or a positive flow. Unfortunately, you're the elephant in the room.
And not to be coy, but we do have the biggest impact on the budget, and we also have the biggest impact on the future of the community.
Absolutely. So. You have a big impact on the town as a whole, and we've always have looked to the school to, again, help the future of the children that are there and provide a well-educated system. There are just times when yes, you can say, I don't have any kids in school, so what do I care about the school budget? And then everybody says, well, when you were in school, you were the
Somebody
benefit
did it
of
for
our
you.
parents making those decisions. But financially, sometimes it just becomes impossible. And I think we're at that stage where if we ever have to dig, this is the year we need to dig. Again, you know your budget better than I do. You know where you can look at it and say, yes, this is a section that maybe we can do without. Again, it's not for me to tell you that, and I want to make that perfectly clear. We're not running your department for you. It's just that we need your help.
I understand.
Nicole, do you have anything, please?
No, this is a process. We're at the beginning of the process this year. I appreciate all your work. I appreciate all the work of the school committee. I know this isn't easy. That's all I have.
When we come before you again on March, I think our appointment is March 18th at 6 o'clock. You know, I will continue to be consulted by the committee, obviously, but we will do what we can to, you know, to try to make it more palatable.
Thank you. Mark?
Thank you for coming out tonight and for transparency. That helps with the town, you know, folks getting an idea of the numbers early on. So in March.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Those resources are posted on our website as of this afternoon, so.
Okay.
Sorry.
I was just going to ask, I wasn't sure what the numbers were walking into the meeting. I wish it was in that packet. So in the future for these things, could you provide us with those talking points ahead of time?
Sure, I wasn't, I remember from previous years, we would come in March to meet with a joint meeting. FinCom was typically there. I didn't see any other districts on the agenda for tonight, so I wasn't really 100% sure exactly what I was asked for. I brought all my materials from last night. We had members of Advisory Finance Committee that were at Budget Subcommittee last night. Mr. Fataco was at Budget Subcommittee last night. So I do apologize that you didn't have this in advance.
Thank you.
I'm a phone call away, or I'm an email away. If anybody needs anything and they want something in advance, I'm more than happy to provide that for you.
Sure.
Could you explain for me, really, because I don't know. I know how a town budget works. Department heads create their budget. They work with the town administrator. At some point, it's brought before the Board of Selectmen and the FinCom. For the DR school districts, is that a similar process? Is it department heads that are creating the budgets that would go to the administration? How does that work?
So the department heads for us are principals. So, you know, each principal is responsible for looking at their building's budget. And so our district business administrator, he sits with them, he sits with the accounting assistant, and they go through essentially line by line. And it's, you know, last year we allocated $1,000 for pencils. It looks as if at this point in FY25, you know, we've only spent 300 in pencils. We've got about half the year left. So, you know, can we cut that down to maybe $650 in pencils for the following year? So what they do is, and then they also have to look at staffing. So there are times where first grade, we may be bulging at first grade, but there's a little bit of a dip in third grade. So there have been times where we have reassigned maybe a third grade teacher to go to help out with first grade and so on. The only, I would say, outlier as far as principals are concerned is our director of vocational, because he's essentially running a school within a school. But then also you have our facilities department director. So it is a department head type model. They then come in and sit with my leadership team, so the director of special ed, director of technology, the budget administrator, the assistant superintendent, and myself. And we go through it and we try to find efficiencies. For us to go from 7.92% as level services down to 4.3, which is what I presented to the committee, just floating a number to them 2 weeks ago, to now, as of today, being at 4.11%, we definitely have looked at efficiencies. And, you know, there are 2 retirements that we're not going to backfill, so those are positions that will be considered cuts. But we do have 3 positions. One is for special ed compliance, and the other 2 are for situations where we're flirting with contractual violations in terms of class sizes, that we're looking to bring 2 positions back. So it's a net of 1 position. And again, not to beat a dead horse, but we've proposed 33 positions over the last 2 years.
Okay. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Is there anyone in your administration that is charged with looking at alternative funding sources and grants, or is that something that kind of is a team? How does
Yes,
that work?
I proposed to the school committee 2 years ago, and they approved taking our treasury services, which we were, at that particular time, we were outsourcing it through a contracted vendor, and bringing those services back in, allocating that money towards a .5 position that we also share with a grant writer. So there is now a 1.0 position that is half-time grant writer, half-time treasurer. And we have been successful thus far with being able to receive some grants. Last year, we received $316,000 grant for 2 of our vocational programs, but we've also found some grants here and there for $10,000, $5,000. Every little bit helps for various things. And, some of those are for special education, some of those are for wellness, some of those are for literacy, because there are still some grants out there to kind of help our students catch back up from the learning loss during COVID.
Awesome. What would you say is the biggest cost driver? Is it the lack of federal state reimbursements, or is there a different main driver for the budget?
There are 2, and I presented these last night, so it's a very timely question.
Okay.
The first is the fact that we're receiving minimal increases in state aid. When we put things into the assessment worksheet, I had said $471,000 because the initial cherry sheet that comes out from the state in late January, it used to be on a cherry sheet of paper, so that's why they refer to it as a cherry sheet, was an increase of $471,000, and that's where I got the 0.9% increase over FY25. But when you start putting it in, and we have to give back because of charter schools and different things like that, we really only have a $309,000 increase in revenue. So we're getting hammered by the state. The other aspect of it is that for the last 3 years, we have seen almost a 26% increase in special education services. So our students who live in our 2 towns, whose needs are such that they need to be educated outside of the district, those costs have gone up 25% over 3 years. And it's not those children's fault. It's not those families' fault. It's just that the OSD has taken it upon themselves to increase those costs over the last 3 years. And so, at the budget subcommittee meeting last night, the chair of the school committee asked to make sure that when we present at our budget hearing in late March, that we have a pie chart that indicates, how much special ed is costing us, how much transportation is costing us, and so on and so forth.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
If a resident had a concern with the budget, is it safe to say that the best place to go would be at that budget hearing instead of when you go to the Board of Selectmen next month, you guys are assessing the town. So is it safe to say it's best to go to that hearing that you discussed?
Correct. We're going to be advertising that. We placed the ads today, but it is March 25th, which is a Tuesday, 6 p.m., and it's in the auditorium at the high school.
Will you be comfortable sharing that with our town administrator, and we can put that on our Facebook page and also help get the word out?
Absolutely.
Okay, that would be great. It'd be nice, if possible, if we could put it on a highway e-sign as well. That'd be nice to get the word out for that budget. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This is a review, discuss, and act. What are we going to be exactly voting on? To accept
Oh,
the
no.
preliminary budget, or is that
No, it was, No, it's not it's more of a discussion,
Right.
if I may, through the chair. The intent and purpose of requesting the superintendent and members of the school committee to come, and I do appreciate your presence here, is just to have a sort of a friendly discussion as to where we're at with, with the budget. And if I may, I do appreciate the efforts that DER has put forward. And I know the superintendent is sincere in the three pillars he articulated. And of course, the one that's most concerning to me is what is the effect of the DR budget on the member towns. And I do believe they have taken that to heart. Back in December, the superintendent and his business manager, Leo Bowman, came to my office, and we had a very frank discussion. I think more frank than Mr. Rooney anticipated, but it was a very frank discussion. And I'm glad he came in and articulated to the board. So I wanted us both sides to have an understanding of the budget. As you know, I had forecasted 4%, for DR. We're still tight. If as you go through the process, if you could get down a little under 4%, I'd be greatly appreciated. But we understand it's a process, and I think we just wanted, you to be here so we could again, not to beat anybody up. We do understand it's a process, and where we're at, where you're at, and I think these conversations are good. I reach out to the superintendent. We were at a meeting earlier this morning, and I do reach out to his business manager. We have some connection from the past. He had worked on the Cape Cod Collaborative, so I think we have a good working relationship, with DR, and getting information from them in a timely fashion is very helpful on how we do our budget. And again, I want to say to their credit, a lot of the pressures that are on our budget are as a result are outside of DR. DR has its own pressures on us, but the really significant ones are are educational, but again outside of DR, and that was part of our discussion in December, and I'm sure it was Rehoboth had the same discussion with them, and I do truly believe they've done their best to come in with a reasonable budget, and I just hope you could make it a little more reasonable for us.
Can you come back below the 4% mark?
Say again?
Can you come back below that 4% mark? Oh, sure. If go ahead, please.
No, we're not, the school committee.
Whoever wants to go first.
No, I got a question on this.
Sure.
I, as a school committee, as a
Could you go
president.
up to the podium, please?
Hey, Woody. So I guess I'll speak. I'm not speaking as a school committee because,
Okay.
as Chris was mentioned, we were kind of told and Bill was invited here, and we
Sure.
came just as Chris had
Absolutely.
posted his meeting. But first question I have is, where are the other two regional districts that the towns of, and what's being asked of them to?
They haven't made their presentation yet, which they will.
Right, but generally we meet with the finance committee. I guess what's a little concerning is, and what I want to ask is, Bill hasn't been through this process. This is old news for, Chris and Liza, because Rehoboth has been in the shoes Dayton's in from 2005
Right,
to
we've heard that
2020.
before, right?
So that's what I kind of wanted to bring up. Like, I've reached out to you guys, shared the history of some of the things and the process. And I think people honestly don't necessarily fully understand. I've heard, let's say Woody wants to table the budget at town meeting. Town can do that.
Yep.
It's going to cost the town more money because you're going to have to hold a second meeting.
Sure.
We'll end up getting our budget through a long process because it's unfortunate. And the point is, like the TA just shared, we'll probably come to the agreement. And the thing that's unfortunate is we all know we're in this predicament because of the BP debt exclusion.
Right.
And I don't want to see the town services getting cut.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think and I don't know what the deadline is for the April election, but I still think we need to start looking at budget scenario A, budget scenario B, presenting to the townspeople and going up back even for a debt exclusion if we have a delta of $500,000 that the town's short. I think what it failed in November for, where people really didn't know what they were voting on. And I know it was presented at the previous, what did we have at the auditorium? It was kind of like, we have a $900 $100,000 line of credit, people might be more apt to say, well, the selectmen did their due diligence. They know if we don't pass it, we're losing 2 police officers, veteran services are going, you know. But I do encourage it, you know, we're gonna have to figure this out because the towns, I don't think, is gonna sustain this BP debt for the next 30 years with Bristol Aggie. And it's unfortunate, as Bill said, you know, one thing we mentioned last night at the Finance Committee, when you look at where the cost is of the district, people don't necessarily know, like some of the FinCom members were asking the good questions, the special education costs are rising significantly, and the state's not reimbursing us on that. So then it gets taken from the regular ed, and the more we cut from the regular ed students, they're gonna look at, well, why am I gonna go to DR when I have options of BP and Bristol Aggie, which then drive our contribution up more that we gotta pay for BP based on enrollment. So hopefully we get through this year, but it'll be great. I still think I think the town needs the debt exclusion for BP, and I don't know.
Well, we can't keep voting to get the
you
answer
can.
that we...
We only voted once.
Yeah, but, so we didn't get the answer that some people were hoping for. We're not just gonna keep throwing votes out there until the vote finally comes back and says, well, we'll give you the debt exclusion.
Right, but what I'm saying is have you guys, and at what point is the deadline, and where are you planning on a scenario A and B? Like, is the FinCom coming back with cut recommendations as far as?
We're meeting together. I don't know if you were aware of that.
The
Selectmen
FinCom,
and
it's
the
like,
FinCom,
okay, when is that coming up?
In March.
in March. I don't know. I do have the dates for you. Well, I think, Mr. Rooney, you said what, the 18th? Yeah, I think you guys.
No, I didn't mean I meant the town FinCom, like as
Yeah,
far as,
that's
okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
So you guys are starting that, because usually, like, to the point, like, Bill had shared, usually we're at this point starting to meet with the FinComs
Right.
of both towns, and we'll usually do the joint ones with the selectmen, so.
Right.
But, yeah, no,
That's all we're having this year. We're not doing separate selectmen, and FinCom.
Okay,
We're
so you're
doing
gonna
it
do
combined.
one, so you
Yeah.
guys are meeting with the FinCom, okay.
Correct.
Makes sense, so.
Just at March 18th is when DR
March
comes.
18th, so, right, and that's, again, it's unfortunate, but I just hope everyone understands the process, and even residents, because, you know, the tables can go both ways.
Sure.
Back in 2014, that's when the Rehoboth parents stacked the meeting, and Rehoboth had to eat 1.2 million out of their town budget, so
Right.
we had been working great to rebuild the relationship between the two towns, and then
Sure.
obviously BP threw a monkey wrench in Dayton's finance, so that's all I wanted to share. I mean, hopefully you guys are in a tough spot, because I wouldn't want to be in your shoes, because the town service budget isn't that big, and it's
Right.
gonna end up absorbing most of the BP debt, so.
We have about a $28 million budget.
Right, and now you got
And-
almost an extra 600,000. Do we
Right.
know, I'm curious, has the BP estimate come down, or is it still 900,000 they're looking at?
I think it's 900 and change
Still?
still coming, not this year, starting next year.
Yeah, I was just asking, because I know they thought it might go down. I was curious if you guys had heard.
Not that
That's it.
I have received.
Through
unless-
through the chair, they're still in the ban process, so it's about 625.
Okay, so it is.
That's for this year.
For this year.
Right.
Yeah, and it's gonna go up next year, and then by fiscal year 28 is when it
Right.
gets the full hit.
Yeah. Okay, good luck. I just wanted to share that.
Oh, sure, thank you, sir. Yes, please. Yeah.
So my name is Chris Andre, the chair of the committee, live on Milk Street. Hopefully the road gets fixed pretty soon, because my car's out of alignment once again. But I'm here
We
today
hope so too.
just to let you know that, you know, the budget that passed, that Mr. Rooney discussed, passed unanimously by the committee. And I don't think that the committee is going to entertain additional, like, staffing cuts, because the last one that we did, 20-something, was very difficult for several committee members to agree to. And if you were at the public hearing, or even if you weren't, it was very contentious. A lot of people get very angry when the marketing program is cut and the business program is cut and the chorus is cut and the music is cut and the class sizes go up from 25 to 35 students, et cetera, et cetera. So I just want to level set that. Mr. Rooney will do his due diligence and look for other efficiencies, but I don't see the number getting too much lower than what it already is.
Sure.
And having the committee agree to pass that.
Right. Like I said, it's not for us to tell you where to cut.
Yep.
I don't want to see teachers cut. I don't want to see class sizes increase that much. I don't know what it is now. It's, but we, obviously, we have an obligation, as you're well aware, just like you have an obligation to your committees and your students and the parents, we have that same obligation except larger. So we wouldn't be doing due diligence if we just came up here and said, okay, 4-point-something%, no problem. And we have to be able to absorb that if we're going to make those comments. So for you to sharpen your pencil is a request, that's all.
Yeah, no, we understand that, and Mr. Rooney and his team will do that.
Sure.
I just want to make you also aware that the way this assessment formula works, we can't just cut like a Dayton Elementary School and a Dayton Middle School. If we make a cut,
Right.
it has to be equally applied to all
Sure.
the schools. So if you wanted, let's say, a $250,000 cut, that ends up being like a $600,000 cut
Yep.
across the budget. So you could say, okay, well, we can lose 1 or 2 teachers here, but then it's 2 here, it's 4 at the high school, and it's 3 in Rehoboth. So it's really hard to do that. The other
Right.
thing I want you to be aware of is,
Sure.
I don't know what your contract situation is with fire and police and the other unions, but we're negotiating union contracts right now. And I don't know if you've been paying attention to the MTA and what's happening out in the industry for the teachers. They're really pushing for significant cost of living increases,
Right.
which to date we've actually had very cooperative and they've been very helpful. I think our last increase was 2.25%.
Yep.
So I'm sure that they're going to want to see more this year. Well, again, negotiating committee will do the best we can, but you know.
Well, that's what we're
Don't be
giving
surprised if we
average
see it.
across the board is a 2.5%.
Okay.
Obviously, that's something you guys will have to
Yeah.
negotiate with them, and
Absolutely.
I don't wish that upon you, but you have to do it. But we also saw strikes this year, which is the first time in many years that they've shut schools down
Right.
for weeks at a time.
Right.
And yeah, you guys will be in that same boat discussing those contracts. We've done that this year. With the police and fire, the town Public Works is now coming up to do that same thing, and it's not an easy task.
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you. I just want to make you aware
Sure.
that it's going to be difficult to
Right.
get down much lower.
Okay.
Just so that there's no surprises when we go to the public hearing in a couple of weeks.
Sure, great, thank you.
Thank you.
This is not going to be a vote, but there's still open for discussion if anybody has something they want to add. Yes, Mr. Hall?
Good evening. Leonard Ho, 760 Main Street, Dayton. The budgetary process, especially for schools, is a long negotiation. There are currently a couple, if not 3, unknowns. The number that is presented to you of a 0.09% increase is the governor's funding proposal. The Massachusetts legislature, as they did last year, you will remember, will weigh in. House Ways and Means plays a huge role in appropriation of the final budget and monies for that budget. And there was a significant increase, if you remember, last time to Chapter 70 funding, which would be a benefit for the district. Negotiations involve FinCom. I would recommend, especially where this board did not want to have a liaison with the school committee, that Mr. Cameron is the chairman, Ralph as the town administrator, Mr. Andrade and Mr. Rooney and his budget people have some discussions. One of the things I would ask as a former teacher who lived through 7 years of budget Prop 2.5 layoff notices. And this is really important for the DR school district because it is a village that's raising our children. And that being the gloom and doom and fear be kept to a minimum, especially now. Because one of the things that can happen is that teachers, if they get afraid, they will go somewhere else. And then you're bringing in brand new people that are inexperienced. And one of the things that the DR school district is trying very hard to do, is to retain its students. Well, if you can't retain administrators because they're afraid they're going to lose their job, you can't retain teachers for the same reason. You're not going to be able to reach that culture of excellence that the people in Dayton want. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay. Like I said, this was not a review, discuss, and act, so we're going to move on to announcements, please.
Highway Department public notice, there's a town-wide parking ban in effect from November 1st, 2024 to April 1st, 2025. No person shall allow any vehicle to remain in the street so as to obstruct snow removal. The Dayton's Lion Food Bank distribution will be held next Saturday, March 15th. No, held next on Saturday. I was like, next Saturday is not March 15th. 2025, located at the Town Hall. It's in the lower level. The Open Space Committee will be organizing a town cleanup of open space in town on April 12th, 2025, with a rain date of April 19th. They are looking for volunteers to assist these cleanup efforts. In addition, anyone who suggests any particular area to clean up can contact Jonathan Gale. The Dayton Council on Aging will now be hosting host location for a free tax aid program. The AARP Foundation offers each year. This program focuses on assisting older adults with low to moderate income. Please call the Dayton Council on Aging to learn more and book your free appointment today.
Thank you. This is a section of the agenda tonight where we have public input. Is there anyone? Yes, sir.
Yes, I'd like to have input on
So-
discussion on the home. Yes. My name is Matt Arguin. I live at 621 Middle Street. Wanted to have a discussion on the shooting range. We were not allowed to have public discussion on that. So if we have an opportunity now, is that possible that we can have a discussion? on
Sure.
it?
It was just ended. There was no.
Yes, I understand that
Sure.
Somerset, they've tabled having Somerset come.
Correct.
But there was much larger questions about
Sure.
that actual shooting range that I
Yep.
wish the chief of police was here to answer.
Okay.
We fully support, all of us surrounding the shooting range, support the police department. But I had several questions that I was hoping would get answered. First was, when was this facility built? Anybody know when the facility was built?
Well, Nancy, was it before Nancy Goulart?
Okay,
I think you
I've
put
been
it
here
on his
since,
Facebook.
I've been on Middle Street since 2005. and
Okay.
it wasn't there when we bought the home. Next question is, that property was a landfill, correct?
Correct.
Okay, zoned for what?
Zoned for, you can't use it other than a landfill.
Okay, without going through and getting a zoning change, correct?
Correct. Well, yes.
Okay. Since I've been there in 2005, there was never a butter's notice that they were going to change the use of that property to be a shooting
Okay.
range. So my question is, was the proper process followed to build that shooting range? Public was not notified to build that shooting range?
I don't know the procedure. We can certainly find out. I don't know if the chief would even have had that answer for you. So but if Nancy knows, I'm more than happy to let her speak. on
Through
our
the
behalf.
chair, as Ms. Goulart's stepping up, I don't know, I have to take a look at zoning, but generally speaking, municipal purposes are a by right. So, by right uses do not require notification to the abutters.
Okay.
Just through the chair, I've been to that firing range. It's not in the landfill. Am I correct, Mr. Ferry? Correct. Thank you. What was constructed out there is, I don't know if any of you have been there, but if you're at the landfill and you drive over, as if you're going to the trailer where the animal thing is, but there's a road that's really not accessible unless you got four-wheel drive. We walked in.
The road is in the wetland.
We walked in, and the reason I went there was because at that time, it was being used by the Dayton Police Department. This had to be, I believe when I came back in 2005, 2015. I don't remember it being here in 2000, between 7 and 10. Anyhow, there was a proposal to allow the City of Taunton Police Department to use the facility. And in order to do that, I wanted to see what this place was like, so that's why I went to the site. We then discussed it with Town Council, and David Gay said, in order to do this, there has to be a written intermunicipal agreement, and David drafted an agreement between the Town of Dayton and the City of Taunton so that the Town of Dayton would not have liability if a Taunton police officer was injured on the site. So that was negotiated, and it was agreed to by the two municipalities. And I can tell you at the time, there was public discussion because there were people here who were opposed to it, because there were reasons that they had that Taunton was no longer going to, I'll just say, the location they were at. So the first agreement was handled just the way I'm describing. It was made public. We did go through Town Council. There is a written agreement. Anything after that, I don't remember ever voting again on letting anybody else in. I'm not opposed to it. I mean, I can hear it where I live, obviously. But the only thing I would say is that we had to go ahead to do it. It is not in the landfill. We would never allow anyone to be shooting into the landfill for obvious reasons. And from what I remember during the negotiations and the discussion with Attorney Gay, in order for anyone else to use that facility, they would have to apply to the town through the board. There would have to be a mutual agreement with similar language to protect the town against lawsuits or anything else. And each and any group, municipality that wanted to use it would have to follow those procedures. And this was set up, it was the first one, so I'm almost thinking Dean Cronin might have been on the board at the time. When I came on, it was Dean Cronin, Patrick Menges. That was September of 2015. So it was back around that time. But there is something on file that would go back to when it started.
Yeah. Can you please stay here for a second? Sir, you have other questions?
Yes, I did have two questions on that. So my only other two questions are, number one, obviously noise remediation, because
Sure.
it is quite loud. And I'm sure other people here have some concerns as well. But the other one is, are there proper backstops and lead collection?
Yes.
Okay.
That
And I believe
came
that
before
the
the board.
bullets are, I don't want to say they're not lead, but we just went through this recently.
Right.
Does
They're
anyone
not
remember
lead.
the outcome of this?
Yes.
Review there, Mark?
Mark was here too. You
Okay,
don't remember it?
we went through this whole thing because we were worried about, obviously, the landfill, and now we have drainage and we have bullets. I'm not gonna pretend I know anything about bullets, but we did look into it, and they were, I don't wanna say they weren't lead, but they were some kind of bullet that wasn't gonna do something. That's not the best answer, but
think Lenny
that's all I
was
have
here.
right now.
And they
Were
were
you
not
part of
lead.
it, Lenny?
Correct. But they
Okay.
also agreed to bring in a company to periodically maintain the ground,
Right.
the range, and remove any rounds that were
Okay.
of lead.
From before it was determined which bullets they were going to use. Right.
One of the things that was described, Kevin Smith was involved in
Yes.
discussions with Parker Rec, was that some of the bullets had lead residual in the gunpowder, if you will. So that they would come in and assure that there were no environmental issues.
Okay.
Thank you, Lenny. I
Thank
didn't
you,
know if
Nancy.
I
I'm
was
sorry.
part of
I just knew you knew a lot about it.
I will just add, there were complaints, it might have been around or just before COVID, when everything got, everything got shut down. But as a result of that, I know I was on the board at the time. The board asked Mr. Ferry to do something about additional noise mitigation, and he did go out, and I think you made I want to call them, not the banks, you reinforced the banks, you made them higher. You did things out there to help mitigate sound. I'm probably not describing it properly.
It didn't work. Yeah, no, it's not working.
So,
Okay.
that has been done.
Sir, anything else?
I mean, that's it. I mean,
Okay.
if we come to a solution on the noise, it may be more palatable for everybody here.
Okay.
But it is outrageous.
Yep.
I know my wife works from home, trying to have Zoom meetings, phone calls. You can hear it even when the windows closed in the house. It's ridiculously loud.
Sure.
Other than that, it would, and I know the police chief said that he couldn't do scheduled for whatever reason, but it should be a limited amount of time and not just random. It's a lot more random than he made it sound.
It sounds like it's 4 times a year, twice by each town is what he, it's more than that? Yeah. Every
Can't
day?
be out there every day.
It-
No, I understand they said it was long days, which I thought was disappointing. They were like, we do it all day, whatever day they do it. But they keep telling us it's only 4 times a year.
But it's multiple days, 4 times a year.
Okay.
They just don't stop.
Okay.
It's for weeks at a time.
Okay. Woody, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Robert Woods, 158 Chase Street.
Okay.
And I'd like to start off by saying, I'd like to thank the Chief of Police, George Nichols, and Deputy Chief Ryan Richards. I've been in communication with them now for a couple of weeks over this. I've been on Facebook trying to get some residents to, voice their concerns. A lot of people, believe it or not, and some of you know me, they call me to complain, okay? They don't call town hall because they don't want to be known. And they know that Robert Woods will speak up for them.
Sure.
And I put it out there on Facebook. Don't complain to me no more about the rifle range after today. So please, I'll accept all other complaints other than rifle range. And I will advocate for anyone in this town. As far as the rifle range goes, when it first started, it was for our police officers, and we respect them, and we honor them, and we need them. And we'll do anything for our police department. And then they decided to take in the Taunton Police Department with over 150 officers, okay? And we do a lot of work with the Taunton Police Department and our police department. They train them at their facilities. And we use them for mutual aid. They use us for mutual aid, and I've seen it actually happen where the Dayton police have to go to Taunton to help them, and they come to help us. So I can see that, and then when they decided they wanted to have Somerset come, I said, hey, that's enough. That is enough. These people are right. Now, they do say it's 4 days. Yes, they have 4 days of required training. But it's hard to get everybody there on that day. Okay, so then it goes to another day. Or now it rains or it's bad weather, so then they got to put it back to another day or another week. So like these people that live in the neighborhood, including myself, and there was a lot of people here earlier that left that wanted to say something about the rifle range, and I'd like to thank them all for coming too.
Sure.
And I know that you received a lot of letters about this
Yeah.
also, right? But it is relentless. Bang, bang, bang. And it's nonstop. These people are not exaggerating. And it's okay, it's acceptable on certain days. So if we could just have more communication, put it on the Dayton Police website, on the Town of Dayton Facebook page, that we know what days it's going to be operated in kind of in advance. Let's say these people want to have a cookout, right? And then bang, bang, bang all day long. And it's loud, And one day I was home and it was nonstop. And I called Mike Mullen, the old TA. And I said, what are you doing? He said, I ain't doing nothing. I said, well, step outside for a minute. He's like, what? I said, just step outside. So he steps outside. I got him on a cell phone. I says, what do you hear? He said, oh, sounds like there's a war going on. Yeah. I said, thank you. Right? And that's all the way from Town Hall. Bob Adams, who lives way out in South Dayton at the Somerset line, if it's not a windy day, he can hear it at his house. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, these people, Mrs. Rancine's here. I know she sent you a letter because I talked with her. It's unbearable some days, but we understand that it has to be done. So we're just looking for, some scheduling in advance so we know it's going to happen.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden you hear bang, 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 and it's not the police. Well, it's coming from Babbitt's house.
Yep.
Right? They do a lot of shooting over there too, especially on Sundays. If you people are hearing shooting on Sundays, it's not our people. Okay, it's over at Babbitt's property. They shoot a lot of big stuff over there. So that's about all I have to say about the gun range.
Well, your request is not unreasonable.
Right.
And I don't see why that we can't come to some kind of agreement. It's not my neighborhood, and I wouldn't want to live with that. But we represent the people who live in that neighborhood. If it's detrimental to your life, then we can at least do what we can, which is contacting
We're
the
trying to hinder
chief.
the police department. We all love the police department.
Sure.
Right, we need them.
But I think we can contact the police and come to some kind of an
Yeah.
agreement.
Yeah, I sent the police some websites to look at.
Yep.
With some real good information. And Ryan did look it over, and the chief looked it over, and they said it was fantastic.
Okay.
So they're gonna be putting some of that same stuff on their website. And hopefully, it's gonna get better. We're still gonna hear the bang, bang, bang. And thank God they're not bringing any more departments over.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Because, that's good. So I have some other things that I'd like to say during public input.
Sure.
Not regarding the rifle range. So if anybody else wants to talk about the rifle range, have at it and I'll come back.
Hi, Jolene Racine, 624 Middle Street, North Dayton. Okay, you're gonna stay there. I was the one who sent the letter, explaining, all the ramifications of the noise. And first of all, I wanna start out by saying, we love the police. We support the police department wholeheartedly. But after speaking to residents nearby, it really has gotten out of hand. And I just have some questions, and I don't know if you can answer or not. But, and some of the questions were asked by Matt. But has anybody ever taken decibel levels, measured the decibel levels in the neighborhood to see what it is? I know there are decibel meters, and I don't know if anybody has ever.
Not that I'm aware of, but that would be for the chief. And we can certainly bring him back to address just this issue again. Tonight's issue with him was not strictly, he was here for other reasons, but one of the requests, which was 2 weeks ago, was to ask if we would allow Somerset to do it, to join the group, Taunton and Dayton. And we had objections to that. So the chief was ultimately decided it was not going to happen. Somerset is not allowed. If I had known, and I apologize, please, if everybody's request here this evening was to have a discussion with the chief, I would have asked him to stay. So no, I'm not aware if there were decibel readings ever done.
Okay. Also, do you know what police departments are allowed?
Just Taunton and Dayton.
When I was going around to talk to the residents, we were under the impression that it was also Brockton, it was Seekonk, it was Barnstable, and sometimes the state police. And people that live nearby saw those
Sure.
cars or those departments going into the
No,
fire.
they are not allowed.
Through the
And-
chair, I'm sorry, just
Sure.
quick, I know this answer. It's Dayton, Taunton, and the training academy, Mass.
Oh, I didn't know
Mass
that.
Training Academy.
Yeah.
And I think this other said UMass Dartmouth too, I believe, or
N-
one of the UMasses.
Part of the training academy.
Yeah.
What I suspect you see is probably those because it's a training when it's a
They
training
don't
academy,
come in.
probably those departments allow their recruits to take a department car to the range.
Okay.
So, I-
If it's only Taunton and Dayton, how are those departments getting used?
It's the training academy, so it's not the whole department. It's through the training when you go, those other departments, when they become fully sworn in officers, they probably have other ranges that they use. But while they're in the training academy, as I had the discussion with the chief, they they use the Dayton range.
Are they Taunton police officers and Dayton police officers?
They're academy
So-
officers.
Like that's what it's approved for.
So it's in addition to the Dayton and the Taunton police?
But when there's an academy class, that's
Okay.
that's what they go for
Why are
training.
they using our firing range?
That was an agreement
Was it
that was
approved by
that was
the
made.
selectmen at one point, or?
As far as I know, I have to look back it, but it seems like they've been doing it for some time, so.
Because it sounds like a war zone, it really does. And it's relentless, and it's loud, and people, when I'm on the phone, have said that, you know, what is going on there? So I really think that we're recommending that you make very significant restrictions on the time and the use and the days of use. You know, who is using it and why are they using our range?
Sure.
You know, we have no problems with Dayton using it. Dayton has only, what, maybe 15 police officers. It's significant that Taunton is using it because that's like 150 police officers. And so that adds a lot more. It's not certain days that they're using it. They're using it almost every day.
Wow.
And it's...
That's not fair.
No, it isn't. And I've been there for 44 years and never had a problem until, like, I would say it's gotten really bad like 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
Okay, so I just wanted to make you aware of it.
Sure.
And hope that maybe you could look into that for
We
us.
certainly will.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joy Wendell, 244 Forest Street. So I also live about half a mile from the shooting range, and yeah, it is loud. They've mentioned it sounds like a war zone. I keep wondering what it's like for people who may have PTSD and what that does to them. But other things that haven't been mentioned is property devaluation. If we live that close to a gun range, and we were going to sell our house, we would have to give full disclosure that there's a gun range, and that brings down the value. And yet our houses are still assessed high. I mean, maybe we should get a rebate for being in this war zone, so to speak. One other issue, I'm really worried about safety. And we have this range design criteria. I made a copy for the board.
Sure.
I made a copy for the police chief too.
Thank you.
I don't know if they followed those guidelines and criteria when they designed and created this, but it bothers me. Just to give a brief synopsis of that, it was put out by the U.S. Department of Energy, the Office of Health, Safety, and Security in 2012, and they published this range design criteria. There's something called surface danger zones, SDZs. And that's the area that's established to contain these projectiles and any debris caused by firing ammunition. So that would be the ditch and the berms and things like that. But then it's also supposed to contain, this area, any ammunition that may ricochet from rocks or pebbles or something, any gunfire that may be misdirected, misfired. I've heard that sometimes guns can accidentally fire twice. You know, maybe they go choo and then think they're done and it fires off. Fortunately, we haven't heard of any accidents, but sometimes accidents can happen. And some of these bullets, like a 9mm, it can travel over a mile, 1,900 yards. The M193, that's like, I don't know, rifle ammo. It travels almost 2 miles, 3,390 yards. So I don't think our range is that large to handle, you know, these accidental firings. And there aren't supposed to be any roads that would cross through this SDZ zone. And yet, I mean, I don't know how the firing range is oriented, but I mean, you know, we've got Tremont Street and Middle Street and even Williams Street if it's faced that way. So I worry about the safety. And maybe what the town should do is hold off, try to stop any shooting there until you can actually look through that and evaluate the situation.
Sure.
Okay, that's my request.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, you certainly have educated us this evening, certainly myself.
I don't know anything about it. But
I don't know a lot about it. Thank you, Nancy, for being here. First of all, is there anybody else that wants to be heard?
I just wanted to say
Sure.
one thing if possible. When I was talking to the nearby residents, a person who is actually on the same side as me across the street from where the firing range is, he told me that a bullet hit his garage.
Wow.
So, yeah, and he heard a ping and it dented his door. So apparently there is there are cases of misfiring.
Okay.
And he said luckily his granddaughter wasn't riding her bike over there.
Sure.
So it is dangerous in some situations.
Okay.
So just to make you aware of that.
Sure, thank you. Yes, hi.
Thank you for hearing all of us. I'm Carrie Diaz from 631 Middle Street. Almost, probably directly in line of that firing range. I do have 2 kids. I do have dogs that live in our yard. And my husband and my son also ride dirt bikes through our property, which it does abut the, not the firing range, but the stream, right. So we can go pretty far back on our property. So now if I'm hearing that a bullet hit my neighbor's garage, that would be right where my son is riding his dirt bike with my husband. So that is a very big concern of mine. I originally was going to come here just to talk about the noise pollution. That is absolutely ridiculous on a daily basis, but everyone has covered that. But now it is definitely a safety issue that I will also be calling the chief of police and raising my concerns tomorrow.
Sure.
Thank you for listening.
Well, you certainly have given us enough to go by that we have to react. And I can't tell you what the final outcome will be, but we'll do the best that we can.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
could we have the chief back in 2 weeks?
Sure,
And have
absolutely.
a community update? I think the police department would know best, some solutions that they could
Yeah.
offer. And at least we have a certain date where we can talk about it again and hopefully make some actionable changes.
Absolutely. Okay, just come back in 2 weeks. Well, the first, second Tuesday of March.
Right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Woody, you had some other things you'd like to go over?
I would like to say, though, I do think that road to the rifle range
Yeah.
was built in a wetland.
Okay.
I'm not a wetland scientist, but
Yeah.
I am on a stormwater committee. And I think it was built in a wetland. We wouldn't allow anyone else to build in wetlands.
No.
No. Okay, the other thing I'm here for, and I've discussed it a little bit with Ralph, and spoke with the building commissioner the other day too, about the PAC meetings. PAC, P-A-C-T. Do any of you know what PAC stands for?
No, but I know that you guys used to have those meetings and now
They
they're-
still do.
Oh, you still do?
Right.
Okay.
Do you know what PAC stands for, anybody? Okay, it stands for Permitting and Compliance Team.
Okay.
Okay, so recently, these PAC meetings they're not posted, they're not open to the public don't know nothing about them. There's no agenda. And lately, in the last month or so, they've had major developers going to these PAC meetings, kind of feeling out the town about what they would like or what they could build. And, I found out about it, and I was a little upset. But I found out, and I came to the meeting anyway. And the commissioner asked me if I would sit at the table. And I said, no, I'm not here in an official capacity. I'm just here as a concerned citizen and a resident. Because I'm talking about 620 Spring Street, which is near and dear to me because I live near there and I care about the neighborhood. So this guy's coming in, he wants to redevelop the whole thing. He wanted to put hundreds of apartments in there. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, pal. You're at a PAC meeting, right? No public involved. Nothing's being recorded. There are no minutes. And here's this guy, talking to some of our department heads about his plan. In my personal opinion, that guy should be before the Board of Selectmen with a presentation or the planning board. Now, this week at PAC meeting, let me back up. Last Wednesday at Stormwater meeting, we had an individual with an issue with one of our solar farms. So we told this resident that he needs to go to the planning board. So I don't know how he ended up in PAC, but he was at PAC yesterday complaining about his issue. Like I said, it's not a posted meeting, not open to the public, there's no minutes. It's like, what kind of meeting is this? And what else goes on at PAC when nobody's watching?
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
Who is the department heads that are at this meeting?
Well, that's another thing, right? Now you got 4 department heads at this meeting that are not in their office, right? They're not taking phone calls, and they're over here every single Tuesday at 11 o'clock. My personal opinion, just my personal opinion, I don't, maybe they need to get together. But we have permanent leak, right? We got permanent leak. So anybody can look online and see who's pulling permits for what. So if you're wondering who's doing what and where, you look at permanent leak. Perma leak, whatever they call it.
Permanent leak.
So, now whenever they have PAC, there's nobody in the planning board office. We have a conservation agent who's not in the office or not in the field, and she's a part-time worker, and she's a little overloaded with work. So she's spending like 2 hours over here where she could be in the field or doing paperwork. I talked to the building commissioner, and he told me, he says, he's got a lot better things to do on Tuesdays than go to PAC. Right? So I don't know what's going on at these PAC meetings, but I think they should be a posted meeting with an agenda, and I like to see who's going to these meetings and why. If it's just some basic permitting in between departments, but when you're bringing in people from the outside, I don't know if that's illegal or not. I'm not gonna call the State Ethics Commission on my own people.
Yep.
But, I'd like to get this cleared up.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't think I'm asking too much.
No. I'd be
I
curious
think
to
this
know
PAC
who's
meeting
running
thing
it.
needs to get a good look at.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
Sure.
Could we put that on our agenda too?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I can address any questions right now.
Go ahead,
on
please.
that meeting. So, the PAC was established to sort of, as Mr. Woods has explained. So, people who want or have a plan or something to go before they go to the planning board or anything like that. So it's sort of a preliminary meeting. These meetings don't have to be posted because it's staff, so we're not in open meeting law violation. So what occurs at these meetings is, someone comes before a resident, developer, so we lay out to them, okay, this is the thing, this is zoning, this is the zoning that you have to comply with. This is, you're in a watershed. There's water there, so you're gonna have to go to a conservation. There's a board of health thing. You have to go. So what it does, it's sort of like a clearinghouse for residents, developers, anybody who's looking to begin the permitting process here in town to understand what they have to do.
You're streamlining things.
Or to understand. What the roadblocks are, and what the appropriate zoning is, and what appropriate department you would have to go to. The few that I've been involved with, and I was there at the one for 620, was the developer came in, he did his homework, but what we do is we advise them. The next step is what he was asking for required zoning changes and a few other things. So what we do, and I know what the building commissioner and the Kerry does is sort of inform the potential applicant. This is what you have to do. Okay. These are the departments you have to go to. And at that stage, it rises to it may rise to the level of an open meeting. I know Mr. Woods and I have a disagreement on this. We've talked about it, but. That's how it was designed.
I'm in total disagreement with that.
Yeah.
Okay, years ago, been going on for years, other people have come with big developments, they go right to you guys, the Board of Selectmen. It shouldn't be no little committee that nobody's keeping an eye on.
Yeah. Again, through the chair.
If they want to talk about permits and what's going on with this department or that department,
It's through the chair. It's not a committee. No approvals. No approvals are granted at that meeting. It's an information session.
Okay.
I think it'd be beneficial to hear from every department head that's a member of PAC.
Yeah.
To hear if it's beneficial in their role, because I'm hearing some folks say they could use their time better.
That's what they all take on me.
So I'd like to hear maybe either.
Only Jim is the one who said it to me. I was just saying, like my secretary in planning, she's not over there in the office while she's here. And Lisa, yeah, I'm not advocating for her, she's not in my department. I have no control of her. But I know what she does, and I know what she needs to do. And sitting over here for a couple hours ain't getting none of that done,
Okay.
right? Then they discuss other things after.
Thank you, Woody. Okay. Town administrators report.
We're still in the budget. We're winding down, meeting with the departments. I did attend, as you heard, I attended the budget meeting last night for the Dayton Rehoboth. Also, we had made those amendments to the schedule that you
Right.
had requested. You may have received it. We just sent it out. So no changing in the dates or times, just who's going to show up on the days. And the last thing is that I know I've gotten a few phone calls from you regarding the sawhorses in front of Town Hall. So we did order high-vis treads to be placed on those stairs. So we should be getting them in a few weeks. They'll be installed, and so we'll take down those sawhorses.
Great.
So.
You just said something. What was the first thing you talked about? The budget?
The budget.
Oh, the change. The reason why the change, it was my request. We're not changing dates or times.
Just who's coming,
just
right?
who's coming and
Yep.
on what day. I'm not going to be here the middle date, but I'll be here for the other two. So that's why I just asked that the bigger departments be here when I was going to be here.
We're gonna miss you. It's
Thank
not gonna
you.
be the same, for sure.
Okay, thank you. Is there a selectman's report on your behalf, Nicole?
I just had one thing, and I don't have all the information, so it's gonna be kind of piecemealed. But, and I was gonna bring it up when Rooney was here, but I felt like we had enough problems.
Sure.
But it's in regards to the state, I don't know if it's a bill or what it is coming down for schools like Bristolaggy and for BP that they want to go, the schools don't seem to want this, but it wants to go to a lottery-like system. And if that is to happen, what that means for towns like Dayton. I don't know if there is a limit on how many of our students can be selected. This is just the beginning of the talks for it. But I just wanted us all to be aware because it is definitely, if it is something that goes through, that could potentially impact the
Sure.
amount of students that we have going to DR if they go to a lottery system.
Definitely.
But that's all I had.
I wasn't aware of that. Okay, thank you. Mark?
Thank you. I don't have anything.
Okay. Then we're moving to old business. This is for the zoning board of appeals. Sorry to keep you guys here so long, but this is a request to have your own attorney as opposed to using town attorney. Just to let everybody know, Zachary is the chairman of the zoning board of appeals, and he is my son. But I checked with the town administrator. There's no reason why I can't sit in on this particular case because there's no benefit to either one of us. So if you guys if you guys are in agreement with that, I will stay. Okay, Zach.
How are you?
Good.
Hi.
Good. So first of all, I saw the letter of from Gay and Gay and his office reasons as to why. So I assume that the last meeting you guys had, you discussed the discussions that were had. So you're all aware of the situation. So one concern that he had was that whether the town would receive consistent legal advice. I would like to say that with the attorney that we have, this is the attorney that has been on since, I think, when you first were on the board. So going with Gay and Gay and no longer having Marguerite, yes, she's a different office, but I would argue that it'd be more inconsistent to not because we'd be going with a different attorney that the zoning board has not had any relationship with. Second of all, for what's best for the town, there's no additional cost to have our own attorney. If we were to turn over to Gay and Gay, we would need to probably double the line item for our professional and technical because we have outstanding 40Bs and potential 40Bs that Gay and Gay's office is not well versed on yet, which they easily can with their expertise, but that's going to require time and money, additional money that the zoning board did not allocate for, because that's not expense that we would have to worry about. So especially we have the budgets under concern, I don't know if I'm exaggerating by saying we would have to probably double our professional and technical just to allow them to be brought up to speed on those items.
Okay.
I am not ever an opponent for, well, it's the way we've always done it. I know boards could argue, well, this is the only person that we know. That, to me, is especially relevant because we have big outstanding items that she is the only one for legal that is well versed on those items. So yes, it's the only thing that we know, but she's also the only one that knows of the things that we currently are dealing with, especially when it comes to the 40Bs, which would be the biggest expense to the town.
How many 40Bs do you have going right now?
That are still, so we have...
That legal is involved in?
The biggest one right now is across the street.
How many though, total?
One.
Just one? Okay.
But that's a big factor. So there's a things going on there that legal is very, very involved in. Marguerite is here, that she can certainly speak on how involved they are with and then any potential 40Bs. I would like to say that now that it's can be discussed, Arborcrest would not be a new 40B that any attorney could just be brought to speed on. This is going to be a returning.
Right, that's what I mean. How many of those collectively?
So as of right now, Arborcrest has not come back before us with any modified plans yet.
But if they did, Gay and Gay would need to be brought up to speed with knowledge that Marguerite has.
Correct.
Okay.
And not to mention that, I'll say because it's on our posted agendas, Fedorov, who is the developer of Stonegate, comes before us just about every single meeting, and Marguerite is there for that.
Okay.
If he were to come to our next meeting and we had to have Gay and Gay would by the next meeting not have to be brought to speed on everything. But I mean, I know it cost the town a bit of money to have a new peer review engineer review that project. Obviously, we had no choice in that matter. And it was good to have that clean slate with that new peer review engineer. But to have a new attorney, because, well, the town always has one attorney. Now that's going to be quite an expense to bring them up to speed. I don't think the town needs to spend that. There's no need for the town to spend that money. And there's no detriment to having. I guess the biggest concern they have is inconsistency. I would argue that changing our attorney, that's the definition of being inconsistent. I understand it's consistent with the rest of the town and the rest of the boards. For what I know, which I don't want to speak on their reasons, planning board has their own attorney.
Okay. Marguerite, I'm sorry. Nicole, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, Mark, do you have any questions?
No, in addition to your feedback, Gay and Gay did submit a letter to us.
Correct.
Basically assenting to the attorney of Attorney Mitchell. So that was the only reason, I brought it up, was it was in conflict with our town council's advice. But at this point, town council assents. We have a positive recommendation from the zoning board. So it all sounds very positive. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Okay, this is a review, discuss, and act. So is there a motion on the floor?
I'll make a motion to appoint Marguerite Mitchell as legal counsel for the Zoning Board of Appeals.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry you had to sit through all that.
Oh, it was entertaining. Thanks, Marguerite. This is new business now. Review, discuss, and act proposed annual town meeting schedule. I have no issues with it now that it's been changed.
No, if I could just give you sort of a lump summary between.
Yep.
Because they kind of go, the proposed annual town meeting schedule and the open annual town meeting warrant. So I know that the schedule is in your packet. We're looking to
Yep.
open up the meeting today. Open up the warrant today so we could start taking in articles. And then on the schedule, as you see, and we're also setting the date for the annual town meeting for Monday, June 9th. So.
Okay. Nicole, do you have any questions on the
Nope.
schedule? Mark?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, so this is a review, discuss, and act. So is there a motion on the floor to accept the town meeting date in the opening and closing of the warrant?
I'll make a motion to accept the annual town meeting schedule as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll make a motion to open the annual town meeting warrant.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Tom? You're up, sir.
It's your moment to shine, finally.
I did request Superintendent Ferry wear a tie for this, and see how much he respects me. He said.
Good evening, sir.
So, our last meeting, we made you aware of, employee that moved on to another job.
Yep.
We have the opportunity for a vacancy. The wishes were to table it to look into whether or not we should consider rehiring.
Yep.
So that's why we're here tonight.
Sure.
So I can either, hopefully, entertain filling that position.
Absolutely. I have no issues with it at all. This would be the opening of it. You'd advertise for how long?
It'll be 10 days.
10 days, and open to anybody who meets certain qualifications, I guess?
Yes. The contract is very specific on that.
Okay.
So it's, positions at operator class 1, you need a class B driver's license with air brake endorsement, also a hoist and engineer's license, 2B minimum at this time.
Okay, great. Nicole, do you have anything you want to add?
No.
Mark?
No, you know the fiscal position that we're in right now as a town, so knowing that and knowing the needs of your department, you recommend to hire a highway department operator?
Operator class 1, yes.
Yes, okay. I
They-
just
They
needed to
will be notified of the town's financial position also,
Oh,
as always.
Okay. And I would make a motion to move forward the request that's presented.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? One thing, when is it going to start? Tomorrow? The ad?
Yes, we'll put the ad together and get it posted tomorrow.
Okay. That's it for discussion then. Motion made and seconded. Any, no more discussion? Is there a vote?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Real quick while I have you here, Tom, I wanted to thank the highway department, how quickly they moved on. I don't know how many weeks ago it was, but it was on Center Street. There was a very large pothole on that bridge.
Yes.
I went by it and I had said to my son, I was like, oh God, that looks dangerous. And I was like, maybe I should call Tom. But the night before you had said how much you had gotten no sleep because of the storm. And my son was like, well, how many lives are going to be lost because Tom got no sleep. So, but we went by within that hour, and your guys were already out there working on it, and I hadn't called you, and no lives were lost. So
Should have called me, though.
I know. When I went back by, I was like, oh, I should have called. My son knew better. He was like, how many lives, Mom? But I was like, poor Tom. Can't keep bothering this guy. But thank you so much. You guys get to things so quickly.
Thank you.
Great. They do an excellent job. We can't say that enough. Thank you, Tom. And to your staff, too. Service awards, is that for you?
I'm here to answer any questions,
Okay.
but it should be straightforward.
It is pretty straightforward. I have no questions. Nicole?
No, I don't have any questions.
Mark?
I don't understand how, can you explain how this works? Like, I don't even get how this works, like, just the process of this?
So SERSAGE is an acronym for Southeast Regional
Services Group.
Services Group. It's made up of, I believe, 22 towns. We're in a consortium, so we consolidate our volumes of services, and in some cases, quantities for materials, and also for office supplies. And that's what you're looking at now is the bid results and the contract that we're asking you to sign.
Thank you.
So it's a way that we save money, and also the procurement process, it definitely frees up
It
the...
streamlines the procurement process because this has already been vetted, and if we need, whatever Tom needs blacktop, he could just go get blacktop.
Beautiful.
It's done. And if there's something there that we didn't procure, or we didn't add quantities to, we can piggyback on to, it's just we did that recently with just sand, because we needed some winter sand for snow removal.
Great, thank you.
This is a review, discuss, and act, so is there any motion on the floor?
Through the chair, I would recommend, if it's, if you are going to approve it, please prove it, giving me the authority to sign the
Sign
contract, so you
again?
don't have to worry. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Didn't we do that last week? Oh, this
Yeah,
is
just for
unique.
clarity. Yeah,
okay.
yeah, you did, but
Sure.
might as well say it.
Okay, so is there a motion on the floor, giving the town administrator, approval to sign?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Tom, are you doing the HVAC system too?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Then there's a request to use the Old Town Hall. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Just quickly through Chair, we did receive the check for it.
Okay.
We have not received the, oh, we just got it? Okay.
Oh, cool.
So we did, all right, so we got the insurance binder,
Okay.
so I was gonna say, we didn't have, we're expecting it early next week, but we did get it.
Okay, I had no issues with it. Nicole?
I didn't see anything wrong.
Or?
Beautiful.
Great. Motion made. Facility?
Motion to approve the facilities request as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
HVAC system for the town library.
Yeah, they put out the bid for HVAC system. We did receive one bidder back, but they were a responsive and responsible bidder. We've done work with them. We've done work with them before. It is North Star Refrigeration. So just to let the board know that funds have been procured for this, and it fell within our procurement amount. Both the building commissioner and Granite City are reviewed the bid sheet, and they're happy with the response.
Okay. And this is still through Granite City.
Granite City is
Yeah.
as our OPM, yes.
Okay. Is there a motion on the floor to accept?
It's too bad there's only one bid submitted.
Yeah.
That's really
Unfortunately,
too
that
bad.
happens a lot.
Yeah, that's disappointing, but nothing we can do, so I'll make a motion to approve the HVAC bid as presented by Granite City.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Comcast.
So we received a request from Comcast to provide them with a letter of support. I think, Mark, you had sent that to me, for MBI, Massachusetts Broadband Initiative, which is it's a statewide entity providing grant money to extend broadband to underserved areas that don't have
Right.
access to it. So,
Okay.
so what they're doing is they're requesting a letter of support from the town of Dayton.
Is there a motion on the floor to accept then?
We must have underserved areas if they're sending us
Oh,
this
yeah, yeah,
letter.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
I don't know where they are, but
It's my
we're a
house,
rural-
no, I'm just-
We're a rural town. We probably have dead spots around. Yeah.
Does this make sense to you, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, it does.
Makes sense?
I only briefly looked over it. I'm not gonna pretend that
It's over my head.
Yeah.
completely. But I saw the word no cost.
Right, so that's-
And that,
Yeah, that was okay
That
with you.
definitely helped my.
Yes. There's certainly dead areas in town that, by right, not by right, that's wrong, but should have access to it.
Absolutely.
If they so choose. Okay.
I'll make a motion to sign the letter of support for Comcast as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Chief has a letter of appointment for a new full-time firefighter, Reuben Jacob, who's not here this evening.
I don't think they come.
They don't
No.
come?
Yeah,
No.
usually,
Oh, okay.
yeah, versus the chief, it's like,
So it's just the letter?
Welcome, Ruben.
Welcome, Ruben.
Yeah. So this is a review, discuss, and act, so is there a motion on the floor?
Motion to accept the letter from Chief McGee as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the warrants.
I make a motion to pay the warrants paid by February 20th, 2025, 34A-25, in the amount of $147,362.77, and 34B-25, in the amount of $308,496.51. Warrants paid by February 27, 2025, 35A-25, in the amount of $144,327.15, and 35B-25, in the amount of $165,736.78.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public input, if there's none?
I have one more thing to say.
Sure.
I just was digesting the public input we had on the firing range.
Yeah.
And just the stray bullet comment. I was just thinking, it might be beneficial, since we know about this now, would you mind just making sure the chief's aware of that?
Oh,
And
yeah, absolutely, yeah. I'm gonna reach out to the chief and.
That way
I know
he can
he's-
make a decision.
He said he was, and he's amenable, obviously, to come back, but I'll give him an update on what was said after he had left.
Yeah.
So he could take.
This is for him and for you. It was nice that they put it together. Obviously, we've asked that he come 2 weeks from now, but he should be prepared
Yeah.
to answer the questions so that he's not hearing them for the first time.
Right.
And then we have to give him another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So we should go over a list of things that people have discussed tonight with Tom and alternatives, if there is any, to modifying the range itself.
Yeah, we'll go over the minutes, and I'll get the questions out of there, and
Okay.
I'll inform the chief. I'm just making an assumption. I'm sure they follow that, that range, but it's good to have.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with it because.
Oh, are you? Okay. So you
Oh,
mind if I
from-
take your copy to read?
No, yeah,
Okay.
go ahead. Only because I was a town representative, Joint Base Cape Cod, and I kind of aware of the range safety and the fallout, and I know
Yeah.
what Nancy was discussing. So
Okay.
So
It's their neighborhood,
Yeah.
and like I said, we don't live there, and it doesn't affect us, but it's no different than if a housing project wanted to go in right beside us. We'd find it a detriment to our neighborhood. I'm not so sure it affects the value of their homes, but it certainly affects their quality of life, and we should discuss it with them. Okay.
And one more thing.
Sure.
I'm a pain tonight,
No.
as usual. I'll at least be consistent, right?
You were actually pretty good up to now. You're ruining it.
I also had time to digest what was displayed on the TV screen,
that was
and
gross.
I was going to ask, could we do, I don't know if it's necessary, but maybe a police report on that, and also loop in Chris Rauner, so that never can happen again.
Yeah.
But I'd like it investigated if we
Yeah.
could. So that
Yeah,
person
we will definitely look into that. Not that I'm surprised. That was pretty popular at the beginning of Zoom, like when.
Oh,
like,
I wasn't aware.
2020.
It's pretty
yeah,
popular. I didn't
and
know
there was
this.
a way. I
Ralph
know,
seems
because-
to know a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you had to be quick on the trigger finger sometimes.
Yeah.
But I'll bring up to chief, and we'll take it up with Chris and see, what things we could put in place to avoid that. Usually, we did it in, because I was kind of like the Zooms are in Sandwich. What we would do is people would have to sign in, and we would have to admit them in, and if they could, if we identify them, we admit them in. And I'm sure, like, one was just like, it's probably the one that just said iPhone.
Right.
I have the name, but
Yeah,
I'm
so.
not sure that would help.
So we'll look at the protocols again, just so that doesn't.
Yeah, that was gross.
That
Yeah.
was, and there were kids here too. It was like
Yeah.
terrible.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing that up again, Mark. It was a little shocking when it happened, so it was just.
Absolutely. Thank you.
If nothing else, then we have the approval of the minutes.
I'll make approval of the minutes of the Board of Selectmen's regular meeting minutes of February 12th, 2025.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And last but not least, time to
Make
go
a
home.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.